Okay, welcome to Desert Blockchain Camp on Saturday, May the 14th, 2022. It's 11:02 a.m. Arizona time. And if you're not familiar with Desert Blockchain Camp, this is a location in Phoenix, Arizona, near Grand Canyon University on about 27th Avenue and Camelback. And we have sessions and meetups and different workshops and things like that here. And we invite people to join us via Zoom if you're a Desert Blockchain citizen, or you can watch this on live stream. So if you are watching this on live stream, which it looks like there are some folks that are, you please feel free to post some comments there in the chat, and we are monitoring that. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. Today is the first time we are going to play the web honey game, or the honey game that I'm calling it. And this is a simulation of decentralized Web3, DWeb3 governance. And this is in preparation for the upcoming Governance of Emerging Technology and Science Conference at Arizona State University this Thursday and Friday, May 19th and the 20th. And I have gotten permission to do this same game during the lunch hour on Friday, May the 20th. So I'm going to be presenting on a panel for innovation in decentralized web governance from 10:30 to 12 in room 240 at the GETS conference at Arizona State University, Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law. And I'll be going over this, I'll be going over two presentations actually, but I'm gonna just go over the web honey game presentation with you today. And then we're gonna play this and we're gonna refine the game. And this is a simulation of how the federated consumer safeguards concept is designed to go. So as we're playing this, we're going to be kind of refining how the game goes. We're also going to be testing out some ways that the architecture can be set up so that there's a more dynamic governance structure around decentralized web constructs, blockchain, tokens, coins, all that. And this should be able to accommodate decentralized autonomous organizations as well. So we welcome your feedback, and we've got some folks that are going to be playing the game here at Desert Blockchain Camp, and we have Charles Brandt from Minnesota, who's going to be joining us via Zoom, and he's going to be playing the game as well. So let me screen share, and I'm going to step through the presentation just to kind of set the stage for what we're talking about here. And hopefully you can see this. So bear with me, my computer's a little slow. And Charlie, hopefully you can see the presentation here.
I can, thanks, Jay.
Can you see it?
Yep.
You're breaking up a bit. Okay, so there's a whole presentation that sets us up even more clearly, which is titled Federated Consumer Safeguards. And I went through that last week. So this is sort of an opportunity. The web honey game is sort of an opportunity to start to step through this dynamic governance model that's market-based, that's incentive-based, that's also choice-based. So let me talk a little bit about this opening view. On the left, you see a depiction of what you might call circus elephants. They're walking along in a chain, tail to trunk, and there's one person that's riding on the lead elephant and is basically able to control these massive creatures that are sort of tied together in a line. And this is sort of a representation of what I am using to represent centralized constructs and organizations and so forth. And then on the right, you see a swarm of bees. And the swarm of bees is meant to depict or represent decentralization. And in the middle, you see something called web honey or governance innovation. And that's basically what we are going to be experimenting with today. So here's the topics that are in this presentation: centralized versus decentralized analogies, regulation approaches, the web honey game roles, the web honey game rules, and then we're going to play the web honey game. And whoever walks away with the most money, because we're going to be playing with real money, and this is a simulation, but whoever walks away with the most money is going to get a ticket, a $300 value, to the Governance of Emerging Technology and Science Conference that's, again, coming up this Thursday and Friday at Arizona State University, Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law. And we do, if you do take the ticket, we do request that you attend at least one full day. So that's how it's going to go. So let's take a look at this image. This basically is what we're used to in legacy systems. In legacy systems like banks, like governments, insurance, structures, and so forth, we have this sort of centralized construct, sort of represented by the elephants. And it's pretty easy to identify exactly where the elephants are, exactly how they're moving, and to a large degree we trust that these elephants can carry a payload that's of interest to us. And let's assume that these elephants are loaded with barrels of honey, and they're going to move that honey from point A to point B. And these elephants are controlled by one small person who's riding on the lead elephant. And how does that person control these massive creatures that could basically do whatever they wanted to do with this fellow, versus the bees, which are decentralized, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But this is how the fellow controls these massive creatures. He controls the elephants with this stick with a pointed hook on it. So he applies this stick at certain tender points to the elephants, and basically they do whatever he directs them to do. And this is meant to represent or be sort of an analogy to how we're used to regulatory constructs that have governed and regulated centralized constructs in the past. So the idea is it's more like a stick approach, where a little bit of pain is applied here or there to the centralized systems or centralized constructs, and basically the centralized constructs pretty much comply with the rules of the game and so forth. So that's the centralized control method. And now we're going to talk about, imagine a swarm of bees, which is more like the decentralized construct that we're starting to innovate with, particularly here at Desert Blockchain Camp and so forth. So how do you control bees? Well, it's a completely different model. You control bees, and beekeepers control bees basically with honey. or sort of a positive incentive. And if you can imagine, and I'll show this, maybe I'll show this in a moment, but if you can imagine trying to apply this stick, the legacy construct for regulation and so forth, to the bees, which are in a swarm, you can see how it would not work. And that is the crux of what we're talking about here. The dilemma that the policymakers have, in my view, and I've seen this before in the telecom realm, and I go into this in the other presentation called Federated Consumer Safeguards, but the problem that the policymakers are facing right now with the decentralized bee-like model or bee swarm-like model is they're basically trying to apply the legacy regulatory constructs like the elephant stick to a decentralized construct, and guess what? It doesn't work. And I have experience in this, in that I have seen this not work in the telecom realm when we moved from a copper line telephone network that was very easy to define to the packetized, instead of circuit switch to packet switched internet protocol network. The same dilemmas started to plague the regulatory realm, and to this day, some 20 plus years later, these problems still have not been resolved in the telecom realm. And now the decentralized realm is interfacing with the legacy financial, political, data, and so forth realm of regulatory constructs. And so in my view, Jay Carpenter's view, we are seeing the same policy-making dilemmas that crept up in the telecom realm. So the point of this honey game or web honey game is to show how an incentive-based regulatory approach might be applied to decentralized constructs to achieve the same goals of the centralized constructs of regulation in terms of financial instruments and so forth. So hopefully that's clear. But let's talk a little bit about this honey game that we're going to experiment with today. We're going to have players or token holders that will be considering acquiring web honey tokens, which will be represented by packets, actual packets of honey. And then we will have some folks that are here that will represent DWeb foundations, which will sort of act like the coaches to the token holders as well as the developers of the honey tokens that we're going to be playing with. And then we'll have hopefully some other volunteers that will represent the state regulators or the referee role as well. And then we're going to have somebody who will be like a blackjack dealer and a dice roller, which will represent the development process of the honey token blockchain and decentralized construct. And then I'm going to be sort of the moderator or game coordinator, since I have a rough idea of how this game is going to go. And this is the first time that I played it. So hopefully that's fairly clear, at least gives you an idea. Let's talk about some of the rules. And the rules are that one packet of honey, or honey, the packet of honey represents the honey token, is equal to $1 US at the outset. And then there will be this insurance token, basically, where as we play the game and the price of the honey token goes up and down, if for some reason the honey token, the packets of honey, the price goes to 0 or below 50 cents a token, then anyone holding that bought the honey token at the outset can sell their honey token for 50 cents to the foundation. And this will probably go 4 rounds of this to sort of represent 4 quarters in a year. But that right will be a 10-cent purchase price represented by the dime to the far left. And for that 10 cents, the honey token holders, the honey packet, which is initially worth $1, will get basically a poker chip that they could, say, hey, I've got this poker chip, which is my insurance policy to sell my honey token for 50 cents to sort of stop my losses at any time. Then the foundation has agreed to pay for that, acquire that honey token at 50 cents in exchange for the 10-cent. You can think of it as an insurance premium. So each Web Honey game player will get a bank to start the game with of 5 $1 bills, and that will be the starting bank. And by the way, the players will be our Desert Blockchain citizens, and they are paying $10 a month in order to be citizens. So this is sort of like a rebate of half of one of their month's Desert Blockchain citizen fees. So it's not like we're asking people to come up with their own money here in order to play this game, just to make it clear. So here's how you can become a Desert Blockchain citizen, and we invite you to do that. Desert Blockchain and Desert Blockchain camps are completely community funded. Occasionally we'll take sponsors, but very rarely. So we do appreciate your support, and we intend to add enhancements like this honey game to make your Desert Blockchain citizen privileges more valuable. The other piece of the rules of this game are that we're going to roll the dice. We're going to roll 2 dice before each round. And if the dice come up snake eyes, then it's game over. All honey tokens are considered to be flawed and worth 0. And everybody will, if you so choose, tender your honey token to the DWeb Foundation, and the DWeb Foundation will basically be able to acquire all outstanding honey tokens. So the idea again here is to provide a level of consumer safeguard that is different than the prescriptive safeguards or protections. Protections is a better word for it, that are usually put in place by legacy regulations and so forth. And this is designed to be more incentive-based, more permissive, but yet still provide a financial backstop to token holders that are venturing into this new project we're calling Honey Token. So hopefully that's clear. And we'll sort of contrast as we go forward how this decentralized governance model is radically different than the prescriptive sort of like elephant and stick model of regulation that we've used in the past. And I specifically use the term safeguard versus protection for a particular reason. And I'll make a point here. And I'm going to go off screen share for just a moment. so that I can make this point. So when I was shortly out of college, I went on a river rafting trip down the Colorado. And I went with a couple of my buddies. We were about the same age, late 20s, whatever. And we were on this raft with a whole bunch of people rafting down the Colorado. And there was a river rafting guide that basically had control of the ship. And whatever he said or they said went. And we were, asking the river raft guide, hey, can we swim a rapid? Myself and my two buddies. And the guide said, no, no, no. And that's sort of the protective model of regulation, where, there's somebody, a regulator, and this is nothing good or bad about regulation. This is just to make the point is this is how it goes. But in a protective stance, it's usually you can do this, but you can't do this. With safeguards, it's more like, hey, if you, Jay, if you put on a life preserver and your friends put on a life preserver, I'll let you swim a rapid. And that's exactly what happened. As it was about the last day of our trip, and we asked the guide again and said, hey, can we swim a rapid in the Colorado? And he said, okay, we're coming up to a rapid and I think you can swim that. So you got to put on a life preserver and, you guys are on your own, whatever happens, happens. And I put on a life preserver. I jumped into the water and it was the worst decision I'd ever made. It was so stupid. I was freezing cold and I was bobbing in and out of the Colorado River. And if I had hit a rock and hurt myself, I can see why the rafting guide had said no earlier, because it would have disrupted the entire trip and they would have had to helicopter me out or whatever. So I can see both points of saying no and saying, this is the rules, you can do this and you can't do this. But in the decentralized construct that we're talking about, it's more akin to, hey, if you put on a life preserver and you're willing to take the risk and be foolish enough to jump in the river, then go for it. So I'd like to make that analogy because that's why the term safeguard is being used here. So let me go back to the screen share for just a moment, and we will get to the game here in a bit. So if we come up with snake eyes, then game over, and the honey tokens are worthless. However, there is another dimension to this game, because the honey packets are designed to represent this blur that we have between currency, securities, and utility tokens. Everybody is clear that a honey packet, even if the value goes to 0, is still worth the honey that's in it. So it's designed not only to represent a positive incentive, but also to illustrate this blur that's happened between money, securities, and utility tokens. So hopefully that's clear. Now, here's another dimension of the game. When we roll the dice before we play a blackjack hand, which is meant to represent the blackjack hand is meant to represent the process of developing a blockchain and a whole ecosystem around a decentralized construct. But when we roll the dice, not only will it determine if the whole thing goes bankrupt, and you could think of that like either a rug pull or if we get snake eyes, then everything goes to 0. You can think of that like a rug pull, or maybe there was some sort of breach like the Ethereum DAO where there was a flaw in the code and the thing just collapsed. But what's that? Yeah, Terra Luna.
Yeah, that's the most contemporary.
Yeah, so if you don't know, there's currently a collapse that's happening in one of the stable coins. So this is quite timely and appropriate. But so that when we roll the 2 dice, if we get snake eyes, then we've got a major catastrophe that happened for whatever reason, and everything goes to 0. And the best thing for the token holders to do is to tender their honey token and get at least half their money back. And that represents the consumer safeguard that's built into this game. But the other thing that the dice will determine is how many blackjack players we will have at the table that are trying to boost the value of the honey token ecosystem. So if we hit a 7, which is the middle point, then there'll be no change in the number of players. I do invite you to follow along at on Twitter at WebHoney3 as we'll be building this up. And we also have an Instagram account and also a website, webhoney.us. And this is our meetup. And this is the Federated Consumer Safeguards, which I'll be presenting at GETS on Friday, sometime between 10:30 and 12. And then at 12, we'll do another iteration of this honey game. This is the GETS conference. And this is for academic research purposes only. This is not any other purpose. And let's see. Yeah, everybody's agreeing to, this is me. This is how you contact me. So anyway, let's go back to stop screen sharing and we will get into the game. Okay, any questions, any comments before we start playing the game? All right, well, hopefully you can see the table. And I know this is all kind of maybe a little fuzzy, foggy, whatever. And that's good because that's the way the DWeb operates, is it's not clear how everything's going to go. So we have 2 players that are citizens, Charlie and Michelle. And so we're going to see if we can start it off with Charlie and Michelle. And you are going to get, and let's see, Mark, will you represent Charlie since he's not here in person? All right, real money.
Mark, keep in mind that I really like money and I also like honey. So if that helps you get into character a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's too bad. We'll have to pour some of that honey on like a croissant or something just to really aggravate you. So, what's that?
And play some Def Leppard.
That's right. So there's your steak, Michelle. That's what you got. And then Mark gets $5 for Charlie. Okay. And then the, let's see, I'm sorry.
Sergey?
Sergey, nice to meet you. My name's Jay. Would you mind being the foundation?
Sure.
Okay. So let's assume you would be like the Ethereum Foundation or the Stellar Foundation. And so you, so the most we have at stake to lose is $10. Okay. However, we haven't really determined that yet. We're not going to reimburse you for having cash. What we'll do is we'll give you the option to buy honey tokens, which are these, at the initial round of the game. And then based upon how many you buy, will determine how much the foundation puts up as basically the financial backstop. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. So Charlie, how many honey tokens, packets of honey, would you like to buy for $1 out of your $5?
3.
So you get 3. And then the foundation, actually, no. Shane?
Yeah.
Will you be the, will you represent the honey token project?
Sure.
Okay. So you're gonna be sort of the banker for the honey token project. So you get $3.
Sweet.
So you sold,
Solid ICO.
that's right. And so Charlie has 3 honey tokens. He still has $2 left, and that's important. Michelle, how many honey tokens do you want to buy?
No, I might be able to buy some later.
You can buy some later.
Possibly for less.
Possibly for
less,
more.
Possibly for more.
Might cost you more.
I'll take 2, how about?
Okay.
He's chose 3, I'll do 2.
So what just happened is the honey token project has raised $5 in their initial coin offering, okay? And the foundation, therefore, must put up $2.50 to assure that they can cover that. So that's sort of in an escrow. So Sergey, right? Is representing the foundation, and let's say it's like the Stellar Foundation. So you have set aside $2.50, which is is that right? Yes, that's right. Because we got $5 in honey tokens that are in circulation, and you have the obligation to buy those back if we hit snake eyes for $2.50.
Only
So-
if they buy their put option. So
No, we're gonna play this such that, oh, that's right. You both need to give me 30 cents. That's a good point.
I give 20 cents.
You give 20 cents. Okay. So you get. You.
And I get a poker chip. 2,
Oh, that's right. You do get a poker chip.
that's one step.
3, 7. Okay, good. All right, so this goes to the bank. Set this here. The insurance.
does that money not go to the foundation?
It goes into like an insurance fund.
It goes, so the money for the insurance, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later. I figure it will go split half to the foundation and half to the state. We haven't talked about the state yet, because that's an important part. So each of you get the token representing,
We just get 1 token, not 2 tokens,
I'm sorry, 2 tokens.
or 3 tokens?
That's why we're going over this. Okay, so, perfect. So, good point about the insurance premium.
The insurance premium was not optional. It's just.
It's not optional. It's not optional. And let me talk a little bit about why I'm starting it as not optional. Because let's say we roll the dice and it comes up snake eyes right off the bat. And basically everything's worthless. And Charlie and Michelle tender their honey tokens represented by the packets of honey back to Sergey, the foundation. this is an important dimension because this assures that all the tokens in circulation will be tendered to the foundation. And the foundation can basically take control of the project at that point. It's sort of like a buyout. And that is not, to my knowledge, nobody's ever done that with a blockchain project, right? And part of the reason is because you don't know how to identify the token holders in many cases. Okay, so that's why we're playing it like this. And the other thing is, part of the reason we're playing this game is because we're sort of experimenting with different ways this game and the actual federated consumer safeguards can be architected. So just in coming up with this game and thinking about it, certain things like this dimension of, hey, here's a way for the foundation to get complete control of the project, which doesn't really exist in the wild, let's say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sort of theoretically, like,
Right.
because I mean, some people could still hold on to their tokens, assuming that the project's or the foundation's going to revive the project and they'll be able to sell them for more later, or
It's possible.
it's an incentive to
But-
get people to turn their tokens over to the foundation.
Yeah,
It's
and
not a requirement.
Right, and we're really not going to know, but let's take the Terra project, Terra USD, which is collapsed. There's a good example where if, let's say, Ethereum, I don't know, take your foundations, if they had been the coaches or the foundation backstops or, representatives in that case, then arguably they might be taking control of that project and then inserting new talent and so forth. Very similar to, Elon Musk buying Twitter or attempting to. So anyway, that's the idea here. Now let's talk about the state. And Mark, I'm going to ask you to represent the state. Okay. And congratulations, by the way, on graduating from ASU Law School.
Thank you.
So let's assume that it's the state of Arizona. Okay. We've only got one state. This is actually designed to have multiple states. So you are overseeing this process to make sure that the rules are being complied with. You are granting safe harbor here because there is a financial backstop in the form of Sergey and the foundation to provide these puts. And the people that both Michelle and Charlie would have to say, hey, I am aligned with or under the jurisdiction of the state of Arizona, which is another difference that isn't present in most blockchain projects. Now, as a future attorney, you might actually be their representative so that Michelle and Charlie wouldn't necessarily have to disclose their identity. And that's another dimension. And that might be an opportunity for a new business realm for the legal profession. Okay. So any questions, any comments before we go to the next step? Okay, everything's cool. All right. I'm going to be the moderator. Assume that I'm just neutral. Okay, 10. All right. So what this means is because it's above 7 and it's not snake eyes, it means that we will now have 2 blackjack players. So Charlie and Michelle are both going to play blackjack.
I need that chart. That chart that you had with the 7 and the above and below, what did both of those mean? If it was below
So if this roll had been
3,
less than 7, 3, then in the first round, then there would only be one blackjack player. Okay. But since it's above 7, you guys get 2 blackjack players at the table. And therefore, if you both win, you're going to boost the price of the honey token by the amount of your winnings. Okay. So
got it.
just go with me. Who knows how to shuffle and deal cards? Shane's going to do this. I think you take the jokers out. Joker out there. Okay, so we have 2 blackjack players, and each of you can bet in increments of 10 cents. Okay. So go ahead and shuffle those. And this represents like the first quarter of development for the Honey Token project. And by the way, if we had more players, the foundation would be have the choice as to who's playing blackjack. The foundation has the choice as to whether or not they want to participate.
Are they playing against me? Am I dealer?
You're the dealer. Okay. Okay. Perfect. All right.
Blackjack.
Well, okay, so here's the other part. Sergey, who's the foundation, can collaborate with both of them. Since Sergey, the foundation, is acting as sort of a coach for the development team and the players, basically, as well as arguably.
So you gotta play blackjack. This is the 21 then?
Yeah,
This is
it's
21.
21.
Oh, okay. I think I got
Okay.
it.
So, all right, so you look at your cards, right?
Both of them?
You look at both of them, determine. Now, do you want, you want to place your bet?
Hit me. Oh,
Wait, you gotta place at least a dime. You can place
place 2 dimes.
2 dimes, okay. 2 dimes. So if you both win, Charlie and Michelle both win on this, then the price of the honey token is going to go up by 40 cents. It'll go from $1 to $1.40. Does that make sense? Now, if you both lose, then it's going to go down by 40 cents. And the honey tokens will be worth 60 cents. Okay. And you
Jay,
get
are our bets correlated with the amount of packets we have?
No. No, it's not. It's the bets are only to determine what's the next quarter's price for the honey token.
Ah, gotcha. Yep, makes sense.
Does that make
It's a
sense?
stand-in for
Yep.
market.
It's a stand-in for market movement as well as a kind of a representation of how the development's going, how the adoption is going for the
Yep.
honey.
What happens if the price falls below?
Then they could
They have
start
the
to,
option to exercise
cash
their
those in.
insurance.
okay,
But they don't have to.
They don't have-
you don't have to.
Got it.
But in theory, the 50 cent or the whatever the set insurance amount is sort of like a price floor to an extent, right? Because if you're
Yes,
fell below that point, you would just trade it.
Right.
Unless you
40
think it's
cents.
gonna come back up.
Yeah.
right. You could think of it like,
Well, yeah, that's
And
true.
didn't want to
But
give
no,
up
but who
control.
would sell under 40 cents?
well, because
Who sold,
it,
who sold a stable
Let's
coin
say-
less than $1?
Well,
Well-
because you could cash out for sure and
What
get that
you-
40 cents, you know what I mean?
yeah, you
So
could.
if you
keep
wanted
it
to get
under
rid of
40.
it, you would rather get 40 cents than sell for less than 40 cents.
Well, what you could do is you could sell your honey tokens for 50 cents.
Yeah.
And then buy other honey tokens at 40 cents or 30 cents. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't see why somebody would sell it for less than 40 cents if they can cash out
They
on
would,
their insurance for the 40 cents.
you would.
Unless they didn't wanna
That
give
scenario
government
exists for
control.
if the insurance wasn't mandatory. And
Okay.
then there would be some unbacked honey
Right,
tokens
yeah.
in circulation.
It's kind of like an option too. I mean, you
Yeah, it's
could
like a put
technically execute an option for less than its market value, but why would you?
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm using the term insurance on purpose to couch this in an insurance realm versus put option realm.
Right.
Put options
Indemnity.
Yeah, put options effectively are insurance.
Okay.
But you could also think of this like, if you hadn't bought honey tokens, let's say you gone out and bought a new Ford Bronco, okay, for like $50,000. And you bought an insurance policy on it for $25,000. The same dynamic is going on. If you go out, you total your Bronco and your insurance policy is only up to 25,000, you've got a similar model.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got your bets on. Let's assume you can only put one bet up. You want to hit?
Yeah.
Is that bad?
It's bad,
Bust.
but it's not bad for my future
Well,
purchase.
I'm not saying it's bad. No, you haven't busted.
Oh, I haven't?
No, you need to consult with your coach here.
Oh, I was thinking, could this move away?
Yes.
Aces can be 1 or 11.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
Yeah.
get to choose.
Now you can hit again.
Decided your ace is 1.
I'm gonna stay right here.
Okay, you're holding.
Yes, hold it.
Okay.
So, and a king is 10,
Yes.
These cards are all 10.
I'll face my.
So how do I communicate with
Yeah.
Charlie about it?
You guys are kind of all on the team, really. You know, you all want
Yeah,
high
this is
token
gonna be-
price to go up. The only person playing
All
against is me.
Sorry. Look away, Shane.
Oh.
This is
I
what.
mean,
You-
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Dealer has to hit until he either.
Can you
wins
see
or
that?
busts.
I can. So wait,
Right?
forgive me for asking if I didn't understand this right off the bat. How come our cards are face down?
Why are the
Oh.
cards face
I didn't
down?
get
I
this
don't know.
answer.
Because blackjack,
I
you
don't
play
know how to
face
play
up. You're playing against the
My
dealer.
cards will be face up once it's my turn, but they're not face up yet because they could be card counting.
Okay. Okay, Shane knows more about blackjack than I do, but let's assume that the cards are down, and we can refine this. The important part is that the blackjack only represents the variability of the development process and the market adoption. And
Totally.
so what do you want to do, Charlie?
I want to hit.
Okay,
You got a 10.
I want to stay.
you're gonna stay.
All right.
Yep.
Dealer's showing 12, so I got a hit. 17.
Okay, all right, so.
Yeah, tough call. I'm gonna take another hit. Oh, there it is. 21.
21.
Oh.
All right.
Except dealer has to stay on 17, but that's fine.
So the
This
price-
That's
dealer-
true.
This dealer doesn't follow the rules.
All right, so I'm gonna grab a board.
So there, if anybody else had 21, they wouldn't have lost. It would be
Yeah.
push.
If
Okay.
anyone else at 21,
It would be a push. They would just get their bet back.
oh,
Just to break even.
what did you have?
I had 21. Oh,
What
he
did
had
he have?
19,
Oh, I was way off.
15. Should take another card.
What did she have?
15.
It's 17.
Yeah, it's not great. Dealer stays at 17, so I think we're getting some shenanigans here.
Oh,
But
wild card deal there.
Honey token started at $1.
The dealer found a bug that allowed him to drain some out of the card.
there you go.
And it ends at 60 cents. Okay. Does that make sense?
No, Wow, where'd you get the number?
Well, it's because
Plus 40.
you two lost.
Yeah,
You two lost 20 cents a piece
okay.
in the value
Oh, so that's,
of the honey token.
We were gambling on the value.
So this
Got
is really representative of the real
of the
ICO,
market.
because the ICO price is not actually the lowest price. All their early adopters got a lower price, their big investors got a lower price. All of their shills got free tokens, and they're unloading on decentralized exchanges before the coin even hits centralized exchanges. This is a very real representation of what happens when you buy an ICO.
Okay,
Okay. So,
good to know.
and we had two players here.
You thought ICO was the lowest price anybody got, and you're wondering, why is anyone selling for less than $1? Because a bunch of people got it for less than $1.
Two players.
It's really the initial public price.
Okay, so let's go to time period 2. All right, any questions, any comments about this?
So now
Does
can
this-
I buy another honey token?
Yes, you can buy another honey
And
token
now it's only
for 60 cents. That's correct.
That
Charlie,
might
do you want to
change.
buy any more honey tokens?
Can you change again?
I mean, is my indemnity coverage still 50 cents a token, or did that drop now?
For
I'm sorry,
60
what's
cents? Let's get 2 of them.
2 of them?
If I buy it now, it's only at 60 cents. Is my sellback under coverage for insurance still 50 cents?
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna keep the insurance at 50 cents no matter what.
You got a box of honey packets in there?
Mhm.
So
I do.
Well, then I'm gonna buy everything I can, because if it drops any lower, I'm gonna get reimbursed by insurance. So my motivation here is to go all in.
Okay, so this is what, now, I don't know how we're gonna handle this in terms of you betting though,
Because then you won't have any
because
left to bet.
you're gonna need to bet something, so I would recommend you.
Well, let's see, 'cause that's-
Well,
you can
you
only get
still
2
have-
anyways.
You wanna buy 2 honey tokens
So does.
for $1.20?
Betting shouldn't be related to the,
It just,
Yeah.
Right.
And then I'll have-
Because the betting doesn't have anything to do with the money that I'm holding.
yeah. If
Okay.
we're betting just to
So
recreate.
you're buying, Charlie's buying 2, he'll have 10 cents left to play.
yeah, it's $1.20 and then plus 20 cents for the insurance.
Exactly.
Okay. And
And
we're
then
gonna
this
say,
doesn't go to the honey token project anymore, does it? This is really going to somebody else who already has honey tokens.
It seems like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but it seems like the money in play to exemplify market forces should be completely separate from whatever the players are holding.
Because it's just,
You're running a scenario, right? Like,
a scenario, yeah.
so
Let's
we don't really
assume-
need,
Let's assume that the money goes back to the honey token project. Just for the fun of it. We might change this.
We're
Okay.
selling more, we're
We're
liquidating
selling-
our supply as well.
Yes, selling
Yeah, the
more.
current market price.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
sell
You
as
get-
many tokens as the market demands, that market
Right.
price every quarter.
Yeah.
So you can sell more tokens.
We
get
need
2
operating
more.
funds.
And you have to put up
I
another,
just gave him
wait,
2
wait.
tokens
She,
worth.
yeah, she gave me
Oh,
$1.20,
you
but
know
you
what, I
need,
gotta take this card. You gotta put it back up.
we
Okay.
gotta pay another 20, we gotta take another 20 cents from Michelle for insurance,
Okay.
so she can get her put options.
And this goes to the foundation.
No, the foundation has to put up more money.
This is the insurance.
Okay, this is the insurance. And the foundation.
Yeah, now the foundation has to
put up-
cover another 4 tokens, so $2.
Yes.
So yeah, that part gets a little bit tricky in reality if the project really was gonna keep selling more tokens. I think that you would ideally have the circulating supply fixed at the beginning. And so that the foundation wouldn't have additional requirements
Exposure.
later. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, for this
Well,
game, it's fine. In the
We're
actuality, that would get tricky.
we're exploring this.
Yeah.
This is the first prototype, the first run through
Yeah.
of the game.
Mhm.
So we might modify the rules.
Or maybe, yeah, maybe the rules start to become that if the project wants to release more tokens into the circulating supply, then they have to cover the put option.
Okay.
I don't know.
Could that be the treasury?
The bank treasury, I'm not sure what.
Your treasury.
Yeah, so you
So
could
you got-
potentially, if you had funds left over from the ICO, those could be dedicated.
I mean, the honey in the box, it's just the treasury of the foundation that it's keeping there, and then it's not part of the circulating supply because it's sitting in the treasury, but then it could issue more from the treasury.
Yeah, yeah, but if they increase the circulating supply, then somebody has to cover the put options. They have to put up. So yeah, theoretically, you could say if the honey project is gonna have to cover that, then we really only generated 10 cents per token if we're having to keep 50 cents set aside for the insurance.
Okay. Well, that's why we're doing this run through, because we might modify the rules and where the money's coming from and so forth. Okay. So does everybody have their arms? Everybody
Next
have their
quarter, that was a
next
that was a
quarter.
rough bear market quarter. All Stocks
Okay.
are down too, everyone's bleeding red.
I'm not gonna do that, but he did.
All subreddits are quiet, everyone's in total fun.
All the memes are coming out.
And you didn't get your two. You bought two, right? So you get two.
Yeah, I paid
Okay.
60 cents, but I didn't pay for the,
No, I think we
Insurance.
took your.
oh, you took
We
it?
took
Okay.
it out. We just bought it right out.
Yeah. We
Yay,
embezzled,
stellar.
we embezzled the insurance. money. And here we go. Okay, another 10.
That-
So you don't get another player in this case, but you didn't go snake eyes. So we'll kind of relax that. a little. But if we had more token holders, this was designed to start with like 5 token holders. So we would have added another.
that's
Good.
usually-
See what you got?
Got it.
Okay. And Charlie, you can also collaborate with Sergey regarding holding and,
He knows what we both have, so he could tell it.
yeah, that's right. Okay, so you want to place your bets?
We can only bet 10 cents.
10
Charlie.
cents, yeah.
But she can still bet whatever
She can
wants,
bet
right?
what she wants.
But if
Well-
I bet 20, I'm only gonna get 10.
Just bet.
No, you're not taking
No.
his money, you're trying to increase the price of
Because
honey token.
you're playing against the dealer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Just
So
put the
you bet
20.
your whole dollar
Put
and
the
win,
20.
then
Yeah,
honey
we'll
token
keep it
price goes up by a whole
simple.
dollar.
Okay. All right, Michelle, do you want
Hit me.
Separate.
Yeah.
Hit me again. Oh, okay, now what do I got? I'll stay.
Yeah. Okay.
Imagine you want to hit Charlie.
Yes, I do.
Nice.
That's versatile.
Not
I'll take
very-
another hit.
Ooh, it's a king.
No. Less.
Busted.
Dealer's showing 20 and stand.
Okay. You won.
Yes.
Yeah,
21.
21? Nice.
Okay.
So you
But
lost.
I lost 10 cents.
So honey token price goes down 10 cents, but then up 20 cents, because she won, or
Yeah.
so it's overall it's up 10.
Yeah.
And then this, when you lose, does this go back to the bank? I forget.
Just give it back to him. He's got to put on his bets.
Well, I was told that the money in my hand has nothing to do with what is available for buying honey
What's that?
tokens. And
What's that, Charlie?
I said, I believe by the rules of the game, what I'm betting has nothing to do with what stays in my hand after the game. But we're just talking about market forces.
Right. Right.
So I wouldn't give that money to Shane unless I'm misunderstanding.
I think the parallel could be drawn that those market forces could be buy pressure, and that would cost money theoretically.
But that would come out of my ownership valuation on my honey tokens.
I think that like if we're trying to draw a parallel to a real market scenario, you could say that you spent that money or you didn't even, I guess, yeah, maybe you didn't spend that money, but that money is locked up in a centralized exchange to put buy orders on the books.
I disagree. What I committed to is buying those honey tokens. I didn't commit to putting any other money into any other projects.
Let's go ahead and finish
That's
this
fair.
round. We're gonna end it at 2 rounds because I think we got an experience of the mechanics of this. And then we can, during lunch, we can kind of talk about what's working, what's not working and so forth. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
now 70 cents.
So yeah, the honey tokens at 70 cents. Game over, right? And basically the token holders are down 30 cents, but the game, it didn't bust, and we could continue playing. So, does that make sense? Anybody think we should go another round, or we're good?
I think that there's some interesting mechanics we already discovered. I think that I do agree with what you're saying, Charlie. Like, yeah, your current bank account balance shouldn't be affected by the market.
It seems to me like your bet should be associated with how much you buy or sell.
I think-
Like if you sell, that's a negative bet you're putting out, and if you buy, that's a positive bet.
I feel like the money should come from completely different source. It has nothing to do with what we have in our hands. It
Like,
feels like
yeah,
it could be an independent
bet by
action.
I
I'm
think-
sorry, Mark, I couldn't hear you.
Like in a real market, essentially you bet by buying or selling. If if you're betting that it's going to go higher, you buy more right now. And if you're betting that it's going to go lower, you sell right now.
I think too,
Well, that's the other part is we could have a sell.
that's what I was gonna say,
Dynamic.
is that could present an interesting mechanic, was because when you ran out of money in a real market, you would have had to sell one of your honey
Yeah.
tokens to Michelle at current market price in order to get the cash you needed to keep playing.
Like the way I see it is we have, whatever it's something that maybe a separate dime for if you
Well,
buy
I'm
to
gonna
the-
interrupt right
Yeah,
now
go
because, is somebody willing to go get the pizza?
There you go.
I'll go.
You,
Go because I would like to.
yeah.
There you go.
Okay, and you know where it's at?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm comfortable with that. I just said that, because I figured Siri would know.
Yes,
She'll know.
the internet
It's
knows.
borrows, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll be back.
I don't remember if there's multiple or is it just the closest one? Borrows?
Borrows. It's the one at 3015.
You get that, Michelle?
I texted her the address.
Okay, cool.
So
So like maybe if you buy 2 packets.
it's
then
under,
that's automatic.
it's under my name,
That's
Jay,
round of
and
blackjack.
then I told them
put
that
in-
you
you're
would,
automatically
be
putting in
picking it up.
20 cents
Sort of.
because you bought 2
That's
packets.
sort of like some buy pressure. I
Yeah,
totally
and then
get-
if you sell 2 packets, automatically your bet is like negative 20 cents. So if you win, then the price goes down.
That makes sense. I totally get Charlie's point though, because like, yeah, you're like, the goal is to see what your final wallet value is gonna be. And
Correct.
that shouldn't be affected by your
Yeah.
cash on
Well, and
hand.
like the dimes you're putting
disappear
into,
unless you bought one.
yeah, and it's almost like the dimes you're putting in just
Mhm.
are completely
I mean-
disassociated with your bank balance or your
Yeah.
account balance. It's just,
Mhm.
okay, so how do you think this game should be improved, or what's the modification of the rules?
I think the betting thing is,
Just take the money, give the money back.
yeah, or just,
On
the
the
money,
bets.
the money is not tied to your
Yeah.
account that's used to bet, but
Right.
I think it makes sense to use money, so that way you have
Yeah.
a way to gauge,
Yeah.
how it affects the market.
So
I mean,
the
technically, you
pot-
could have a
The simplest fix is, yeah, just when a round of blackjack is over, they just get their money back.
Right.
It doesn't really matter.
Right.
But the betting will still affect the market price.
It's
But I-
simply the market.
But I think the amount you bet needs to be tied to your behavior, because that's how it works in the market, right? Like your behavior you do now is essentially the bet you're making on what the future is going to be.
The blackjack
I-
round is meant to just represent what could happen in the
Yeah.
market. The developers could do
Yeah.
a good job, they could do a bad job, the market could be bullish, the market could be bearish. It really has I don't think it necessarily has a direct correlation to how much
a honey token you bought. or sold.
No, but you buy your honey token now based on how you think the future will look,
Right.
right? So that's essentially the bet you're placing, and you place a bet whether it's a sell or a buy based on how much of an impact you think will occur in the future.
Why couldn't you just have like a number generator or like dice, like a positive and negative dice and a 1 through 6, and that is a plus or minus?
Yeah, just have it
Yeah.
be
I mean,
totally randomized. And you're
totally separate. I mean, because otherwise you're going to run into this thing. If I'm just saying, because I mean, we're all, having fun here, but if you're doing a demo, all of a sudden you have people that are running out of money and they're like, well, it just muddies the waters. It feels like it should be some different mechanism to determine market forces. But if you still want to keep it fun, then it at the very least should come out of a different pot.
Or your bet is just simply, I'm betting positive or I'm betting negative, and then whatever the overall win is, whether it's positive or negative, then you use a random number generator to decide how much it's going to be positive or negative.
Yeah, I think you could simplify the representation of market forces. You could have like a black dice and a red dice, and they, each person just rolls the dice, and the black dice is positive and the red dice is negative.
Yeah.
And that's the new price of honey token.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
the entire complexity of the blackjack.
Yeah, I think so.
Betting and everything.
I think that makes sense.
It's the blackjack.
you speed up.
Well,
Can I get your guys' thoughts on that insurance value? So like when I bought mine, if I know that the insurance value is going to be 50 cents and it's at 60 cents, why would, I mean, what I mean? I'm only risking 10 cents, whereas in the beginning I was risking essentially 50 cents, right?
It's much smaller.
Right. So I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, it as an investor, that would be a huge, either it would be a huge incentive for me to go in after the price drops, if you want that behavior to occur. If you don't, then that would be something that needs to be addressed. Or that, I mean, obviously one way or another that can be built into a smart contract or the rules or whatever governing structure you have for that.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point because it incentivizes people to buy at market price when it's getting closer to the strike price.
Yep, exactly.
That actually could be a really good sort of safeguard for the foundation, because then they have more confidence that people aren't going to sell down to the cash out price because just outside forces are going to swoop in and buy up all that low risk token and keep the
So
price.
what if it goes under 50 cents then?
5 cents.
So if it all of a sudden drops to 30 cents, you can't have 50 cents indemnity coverage on a 30-cent token. You're basically giving people a 20-cent profit per token.
But the opposite of that is that if it goes down to 30 cents, right? And if there's people, like, let's say there's people who didn't buy with the insurance premium because they were the original investors before the ICO, then you're going to have investors who, and that's why I don't think it would ever go below it, because you'll have investors who say, oh, great, I want to buy this, and then I can cash out and immediately make 10 cents per coin.
Yeah, people will arbitrage that all day.
Yeah, you can arbitrage the situation.
There's people who have bots that automatically do it. I think that's where the introducing new circulating supply after the ICO kind of muddies the waters a little bit. It gets complicated because, do you have to buy additional insurance? Does the foundation have to put up additional funds? Where do those funds come from?
But that would drive the price back up anyway, because if it ever started to go below, then you'd have a huge demand to buy for the arbitrage aspect.
Yeah.
So then it would just drive the price back up.
It might also throw the behavioral incentives of the thing out of whack, though. I mean, in all reality, that's one box, that's one option one path you could proceed down. You could also have a ratio coverage or a coverage ratio. I mean, 30% of invested funds or something like that. I would hate to, like, this is how it is. If you're at the point where you're kind of thinking about how do you want to govern this, I would at least throw ratioed coverage on the table as opposed to as a discussion topic.
Well, if this was treated like a put option, there would be a market price for the puts.
Yeah.
Which would adjust for the incentive to arbitrage. So that's an important consideration. And
I love it. I mean, I literally trade options all the time, and I also just got done doing a whole project on insurance tokens. So like my brain is literally like I'm kind of straddling both sides of it. So I don't particularly go one way or another, but it would definitely be an interesting conversation to have.
okay. Well, that's great, Charlie. I didn't know that you were that familiar with options as well as insurance contracts and so forth. So it's good that we're going through this exercise and, you know, considering the different dimensions as to how this could work. And I think the other big question is, do you unbind the insurance or the puts from the tokens themselves? My original thought was that they should be separate, and you would focus on the registration of everything in the taxing purely on the puts. And then it would be up to the token holders whether they wanted to buy insurance or not.
I'm assuming the insurance is non-transferable, right?
Well,
Otherwise
that's
you
what
could,
we're talking about. No, it could be transferable.
okay.
This is a design consideration.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
So the puts themselves could be a completely separate item, and people could be buying the puts without holding the tokens.
Sure. I think I can't stream it live, but after we get done with the live stream, if you guys wanted, I think I have something that would be interest of you, just as a potential way to address that problem.
I think too, we were talking about, you know, what happens as the price gets closer and closer to the put price or the strike price. And, you know, we're not talking about the other end. You know, if the honey token price is $3, $5 or whatever, a 50-cent buyback doesn't provide very much
Right.
new investor protection at all.
Well, so here's my thought on that. Let's say things go well and the honey token goes up to $5 from $1. I would see like possibly a new issue of put options with a different
At
strike,
50% again.
different strike price. And that provides ongoing revenue for the foundation as well as the state, because that's what you want.
Yeah.
You want the price of the honey token to be increasing in value and those puts to be expiring, and insurance not to be used.
I think the expiration is really important, because otherwise, if there's no expiration, those funds are just locked up forever. Versus if they expire after a year, then they could take that bank of 50-cent puts and
Right.
apply it to the new $2.50 puts.
Right. Yeah, and then it becomes arguably a source of revenue for the foundation as well as the states involved, that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
And with the expiration, you know, the foundation has the option, okay, I want to go another year and I'm willing to back X number of tokens for, you know, whatever terms, and states have the same option to either play or leave. So anyway, do we all agree that this at least partially achieves the intention of regulation? It provides some sort of backstop that's available for token holders.
Well, it provides that life jacket like you were talking about, essentially. You know, you might get knocked out, but you're not going to drown.
Right.
Yeah, I think after our conversation with the FinTech Sandbox, this has the most appeal to the state, both as a source of revenue, but more importantly, as a source of investor safeguards.
Well, and it also has it has a way to identify the token holders that's not in place today in the marketplace.
Potentially. I mean, like you said, you can use proxies.
Well, even if you use an attorney as your agent, which I would imagine that would be pretty appealing to a lot of the crypto holders. But the agent's going to have, as an attorney, as a somewhat of a fiduciary, is going to have some responsibility regarding the actual token holder.
Is there an intent there for like a KYC check for redeeming the calls or the insurance? Like,
Right.
yes, we'll give you 50 cents for this, but you have to tell us who you are, or your lawyer has to
Right.
tell us who they are.
It's a step towards adding in a KYC AML component to the crypto space that isn't there today.
Well,
That
'cause
makes
if you use a lawyer, I would imagine you could just have so that the client or the end user could remain anonymous. You could just have the lawyer, basically vouch for it.
Right.
Be writing because they're not going to risk their license, or
Right.
they'll just say, they'll say, yep,
I represent
I
this
represent,
This
yeah,
client.
such clients,
They
or,
are
such
terrorists.
I
group of
represent these
clients.
wallets.
Yeah, and I can verify that,
Mhm.
they have X amount of crypto in
On the lawyer side of it, like what would be the risk to them? I mean, they pretty much have to vouch like my client isn't a terrorist or money launderer.
well, because I would imagine the client would already go through AML and KYC to get onto the exchange market to purchase the crypto.
Well,
in the
let's
first
Decentralized
place.
exchange.
Let's assume that this could accommodate non-exchanges. So
Okay.
this could accommodate what do they call it? There's a term in Europe, and I just heard a podcast where they were thinking about outlawing wallets that were not associated with exchanges. So I think
Non-custodial.
non-custodial, whatever it is. So I think they nixed that because it
Unenforceable.
was,
Yeah, I was
Unenforceable.
like, that's interesting, but I don't know, how do they do that?
well, but while we're discussing the dynamics of this, it seems to me that you might be able to achieve the best of both worlds here if you do have a representative
I think,
that's basically vouching,
yeah,
that's doing part of the job of the exchange that does the KYC, AML, and
well, I think what's gonna be big for a lot of moving things forward is when the KYC and AML just gets tokenized to where, rather than each exchange having to do, you just go to one entity that can provide you, that's trusted with whatever the regulator is, where you can present your token and say, look, I've, done my background check. So you can just, rather than asking everybody to run their own test, it's like, here's a trusted entity that's done the check, and here's my token to show that.
This is my non-terrorist NFT.
Token, yeah.
This NFT.
Exactly.
This
Not a
might-
bad guy.
this
Yeah.
might open an interesting way to experiment with zero knowledge proofs as well, where you could construct the zero knowledge proof associated with a representative like an attorney saying, okay,
Because I don't think there's gonna, I mean, that would, for an attorney, I don't, that means they would have to do their own KYC and AML, and I don't, if they're gonna vouch for them, if it's not through an exchange, which I don't know how, I'm not extensive with the verification, or I'm not, informed on the verification process. I don't know how extensive or not
Michelle?
the process that is. Like,
Yep,
if it's
that's-
feasible for an attorney to do that with their own customers, or if it is really only feasible when you have the resources that an exchange
Well,
market
see,
has.
there's part of what we're identifying is realms to research.
Yeah.
And the different design options. And part of the area to research is, how could a representative act on behalf of the underlying token holder? and how might they be able to do some sort of vouching for the identity of the token holders as well as
So
all
one thing that sort of adds a little bit of complexity, I think, is that what happens to tokens after that. So the big reason for that push in Europe for outlawing non-custodial wallets is because when all the coins are held on a centralized exchange, they can choose who you can send it to. So they could prevent you from sending it to Russia or to, a known terrorist group or whatever. But as soon as you have your own KYC token or whatever, and those funds are released into your custody, then you can send them wherever you want. And that's what the big thing they were trying to avoid was because
Wallet sanction list.
an AML only goes so far if those tokens can now be sent to a non-KYC entity.
Well, interesting. Maybe, certainly with Stellar, there's a way that you can control where
You can
The-
only allow trusted wallets to hold your asset.
Right,
And then any wallet that wants to hold your asset has to pass a KYC check.
or have a representative that's vouching for the KYC.
And that's kind of the way I imagine it, if it's operating through a sandbox that the state would, there would be a contingency or, a condition that it is only, the only coin holders allowed to possess the coin have to go through KYC. That seems to be where the SEC is focused on right now.
That's probably what the regulatory dream would be, but most
Yeah.
crypto enthusiasts are.
That's
adamantly
the exact
opposed to
opposite,
that.
of course. But the thing, I think that's, the people who are more technical, I think a lot of the people who are buying Bitcoin right now don't care because
Oh, yeah,
they're
they just
going
wanna
on
see
these
number go
markets
up.
where they give, all their direct information and it's like, cool, now give me the Bitcoin.
I would say over 90% of new
Yeah.
crypto investors couldn't be involved in this conversation we're having at all, and they don't have any interest.
Exactly.
They just want to know what coin's
Yeah.
going to be worth double next year.
Exactly.
Or 10 times as much or whatever.
Yeah, they just see it's completely analogous to the
Yeah,
stock
they don't
market
care if it's a
almost.
centralized coin, they don't
Yeah.
care if it's a centralized consensus.
Yeah.
They just want an investment that
Exactly.
it's gonna make money for them.
Well,
Right.
after the Luna incident, I think they're gonna care a little bit more about
Yeah.
decentralization,
Hopefully.
or at least
Yeah.
for the next 2 years, and they're just gonna forget about it.
Yeah, and then, next bull cycle, we'll have a flood of new investors who won't even know what decentralization is.
Well, I think there's also a component of greater trust with this construct. Because you're not gonna be buying some coin that's gonna the probabilities of getting a rug pull and getting burned on
Yeah, going
something
to
like
zero.
this are go way down.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna get a foundation to associate with some sort of, rug pull or scam or whatever.
When they know they're gonna be the one holding the bill.
They've got skin in the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So,
they're gonna really thoroughly vet the projects that they choose to back in that way.
yeah. And
Probably have additional safeguards for their own skin.
so I think we'll wrap it up, but thanks for everybody participating in this, and we'll do it again on Friday at lunch at the Governance of Emerging Technology and Science Conference at Arizona State University, Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law. You can Google that, and let's see. For the ticket, would you like to? You can't go, right, Charlie?
I would absolutely love to go. I cannot. It's not, I have stuff at work that I have to do. So I would love to.
Are you going, Mark?
I was wanting to, do you know what the application deadline is? Because I know for law students, it's free
It's
to
free.
apply, and then attendance would obviously be free if you're.
Yeah, I don't know.
So.
Sergey, would you like to go?
I was up on Friday.
Okay, Thursday and Friday, because you could go on Thursday.
I worked Thursday.
Shane, you want to go?
It's this Thursday, Friday?
Yeah.
I'm interested, yeah.
Okay. Here's our winner.
Which day are you presenting, Friday?
I'm presenting on Friday. So, yeah, okay. So we just gave away our Getz ticket to the dealer, no less.
The speaking dealer.
Dealer always wins.
That's right, the house always wins. And he's taking the honey. So cool, I hope this was valuable, and it certainly brought up some things to the surface that we can watch this video and refine and so forth. So I think we'll end the Zoom, well, we won't end the Zoom, we'll end the recording, we'll end the YouTube live stream. Charlie's got something to share with us while we're having some pizza and whatever, but we'll do this again. I think this was very instructive. Hopefully we're on to something that has some merit that's worth researching, worth continuing to refine and play with, and hopefully it will introduce something in the DWeb 3 regulatory realm that might pave a path that we can go forward, reduce the uncertainty, and provide a viable path for projects, innovation, consumer safeguards, all of the things that we've been striving for. That's the goal here. So if you're watching this and you've got some suggestions, input, whatever, please feel free to reach out to me, Jay Carpenter, JayCarpenter at desertblockchain.com. And I'm sure we'll be doing this game again during our Saturday sessions, and appreciate your time and attention. So stay tuned. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.
I remembered.
You